So my daughter got new glasses, and she's probably of the three kids I have, she's the one that will either break or lose her glasses. So we wanted to have a fun little place for her to put them on at night or when she wasn't wearing them. So her favorite animal is a penguin, and so I modeled up a little penguin, found a toy model out online. Let me just turn off these bodies for a second. And you can see I found, some little toy like that. And basically I used that to model the penguin here. So I'm gonna go through just quickly kind of modeling something like this. I didn't really need the eyes or anything. I just changed the color of the feet and the eyes to make it look a little bit more penguin-y to show you before we get to the end result. So with that, let's turn those off and we'll turn that canvas back on. I just put a canvas in the background. And then our Sculpt environment is a great environment for this kind of stuff. So I can create a box, and I'm just going to place a box down here kind of at the center, and we'll drag that up. And with that, I'll just kind of eyeball a little bit about as high as I want it to be to start with. And I can also come in and put symmetry. So if I want it to have symmetry along some of these axes, I can do that. So let's make sure. Let's make sure that is fine. Um, we'll just accept that so we can see I have the box there. If I turn off the canvas, we'll be able to see it solid. But the canvas just has the ability to kind of burn through my model a little bit. So I'm going to grab that, and with my editing command, I can just come in here, pull that up a little bit. Maybe we'll pull that center up a little, pull those edges up a little bit. And I can start kind of scaling this in and out. So with that, we may say let's pull that in a little bit, maybe bulge that out a little, so we get something like that shape. We'll grab each of these faces, and you want to grab all four of them so that they don't split into individual faces when you extrude it up. Holding your Alt key, you can drag up and extrude and get extra faces. So that'll be helpful so I can get those fins kind of in the place that I want them to be. We can probably pull that up a little bit. And with those selected, let's extrude those up one more time. And we'll bring those up. Let me undo that just for a minute, make sure I just have faces and not edges. And pull that up. There we go. We'll go to the front view, scale that all the way down, kind of move it up. So you can see here pretty quickly we can grab shapes like this and kind of follow the contour of what I'm looking for. It may be we want this to be a little bit fatter. So I'm going to grab the whole thing and just kind of scale out the whole shape. And the back of it may be, a little flatter than the front. We may want to put a tail in here. I'm not going to worry too much about that yet. But I can grab all of these and just do a scale in if I want. It'll kind of flatten it a little bit. So we have, kind of the shape that we're looking for there. We may even want to, let's just grab that back face, and looking at the side here, I'm going to drag that out. So we'll do an extrude. Now I didn't have an exact, I wanted the fins to be out a little bit. There we go. So let's turn off the canvas now. So I have something like that. And let's pull that maybe in a little bit more, and we'll extrude it a couple of times. So we have that face, and I'm just going to hold the Alt key once again and drag that out just a few times. There we go. Maybe 3 times. And then, that allows me to kind of follow a contour, see how I want that to look. Maybe we rotate that a little bit, move it up. This one, we'll just double click on that edge. We may move it up, rotate it around a little bit. This end one, we may just want to scale that in, be a little bit flatter, and pull it down. And maybe out a little bit. So you can just play around, kind of figure out what the shape you want this thing to have. It may be that we want that to come in something like that a little bit. So we have the basic shape of our dolphin, or not our dolphin, our penguin. And from here, if I return out, it's now a solid body. I can do a number of things with it. I can go back into the sculpt environment if I want. If I wanted a foot here, I may just want to drag out something like that as a foot, pull it up a little bit, and let's just hit OK. To make something like a foot here, I want all these edges to be sharp. So I can just select them all, right click, and hit that we want to crease those. So we want to have a nice flat edge. And we may go to the front of that. We'll grab the whole thing, and maybe we want it to be a little fatter, maybe a little narrower. So we'll scale it in a little bit. It may be that if we go to just let's grab, you can see here we can choose. Right now it's looking at body. We can have all control, so I can grab everything. And we may want to scale that in a little bit there. And we may, in fact, I'm just going to undo that and grab all those edges all the way around. We'll scale those in just a little bit so it gives us some contour on here. And then we may want the entire foot to be kind of narrower. So we'll just scale that in. We may want the back to be wider than the front. So we could grab those faces, kind of scale those out. Maybe, we're just kind of playing around with this, seeing something we want. That looks pretty blocky. It may be that we want those to be a little narrower. And this to be a little fatter, so you can kind of control what that might look like. So as you come in and play around a little bit and just figure out the shape that you want, kind of control that. Maybe the whole thing needs to be a bit flatter, maybe it's too fat, so you get something like that. And so we'll use that as one of the feet. I'm going to position it where we want it, so we'll just grab the whole thing and let's just rotate it a little bit so we get something like that. And in the front, we want to pull it up into the model a ways. We'll see what that will look like in a minute. Not quite, it looks a little big. We probably want to scale the entire thing down. So we can just go to the center, scale the whole thing down. I want it to be a little exaggerated, but not too exaggerated. So with something like that, when I return out, you'll notice that I have a couple of different bodies for that. And I can also come in and say, let's just mirror. And I can tell it to mirror that body. And I probably don't have a plane where I want, but let's see if that's in the middle. Looks like it's pretty close. So I've mirrored that over. So I have both sides. And then what I did to join all these together, because ideally, I'd do much the same on the beak, but I would come in and say, let us combine these three parts. So now it's one body for all of it. So now when I export this, which I'm going to want to export it as an STL file, I can come in and say, let's just do an export. I can just right click on that body, save it as an STL. I don't want to send it to a printer, so if I hit OK here, it's going to ask me where I want to save it. So I can give it a name, save it to my desktop or wherever, and save it as an STL. So now I have something like this STL out, and I've done something very similar with this guy. So I modeled him up, I exported, I have a couple of extra bodies here because I split it to show some colors of it. But if I roll this all the way back to here, I have basically one body of the original one I created, and I've exported that as an STL file that then I can bring that right into 123D Make and be able to slice and dice this into different pieces. So hopefully that helps on creating this in Fusion 360 for the first step.